about a mistake that you feel you've made while you've been in service to this city, what you learned from that mistake, and how you rectified it.
Well, the mistake that I'm going to talk about, I haven't rectified yet. And I think probably a mistake that was made was in the whole the wetlands ordinance discussion. That wetlands ordinance was part of a package that came in along with the vernal pools. And it was very controversial, especially the vernal pools part. And it went on for about a year and a half. And there were initially there were a lot of people who were very concerned in certain sections of the city, and the Conservation Commission had not done aggressive public hearings, so the Ordinance Committee encouraged them to go out and do that. And then there was another group of people who came back, so there was a lot of discussion. It got sent back, and we finally reached a compromise where we had the Chamber of Commerce at the table, we had broker coalition, and we really got something that people were really could live with in terms of the vernal pools. And just as we came to closure, then people came forward with concern about the wetlands part of it. And afraid that we were going to lose the whole thing, we said, okay, let's move forward, let's vote on this, and then we'll go back and re-examine the wetlands piece with assurances that the wetlands wasn't meant to open up big development, that it was only to help homeowners in making it more homeowner friendly. And that turned out not to be the case. So I have pledged to re-examine the wetlands ordinance. But that was one thing that I think was looking backward, I'd see as a mistake.
You know, this question was asked the other night, and I brought up the issue of the zoning on King Street, and I wish while that went through a long public process, I wish that had, and I really did not insert myself into that process. I wish that I had inserted myself in that process more, because I think the northern end of King Street should have been treated differently than the southern end of King Street. I think the development needs are different, and that it should have been looked at differently. But I also want to talk about last year, before it became clear that the bottom was dropping out of the economy, I encouraged the school system to put together a strategic planning committee, and I asked them to look at what the needs of the school system were over the next 5 years and really start thinking about that. And what happened was that process crashed into the budget mayhem that happened at the state level that was visited on us. And it became polarized as a discussion about should we close a school, which school, et cetera, and it became, I think, not useful to the dialogue. I'm sorry that that happened that way, because I think we first needed to really focus on what our goals are for students in our schools. What do we think are important in terms of the school experiences for kids? Small class sizes, what kind of offerings, and then also talk about geographically what kind of services do we need to have throughout the city, and then make a decision about what kind of physical plan we need to have. We may end up deciding that we need all 4 schools. We may end up deciding at elementary schools, we may end up deciding that we don't, but it should be a goal-driven, student-centered process. And I'm sorry that didn't happen last year, and I hope that the decision-making process the school departments put together this year will allow us to get there, talking about kids and their needs. And that's really what this should be about. What do kids need?